This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Teresa Bergen for the first time. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Phantom. Thanks for having me.
We love to talk to people in a live format. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. And before we get to the heart of your story, we just get some business out of the way. There's a QR code up there. That's for Podmatch. That's the tool we use to match guests with our podcast. So if you are somebody that wants to be a podcast guest or you're a podcaster looking for a guest, scan that QR code and check it out. It's a good way to find guests or become guest on other people's podcast. It's a cool tool, so we encourage you to check that out. Before we get to the heart of your story, we ask every guest a couple of questions. What motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Should I do my Podmatch ad first since you did yours? Let me just say really quick. I've been really enjoying it because I've met people like you, and I've also been on some podcasts that I never would have met people. I've been on 2 that were all the way in Nigeria, which was so neat to think that technology can do that. So
Well,
yeah, my hats off to Podmatch. But so what motivates me? Well, I've had a lot of different things I've worked on in my life, but the thing I'm working on right now a lot is on promoting sober travel. So I'm trying to normalize non-drinking as a viable option because it's kind of the norm in the culture. And the reason why is because I've been sober a long time and I don't really have anything to lose. There's still a lot of stigma by people that people feel when they're in recovery, and they might not feel like they can say that they are, but I don't have anything to lose. So I might as well say it and be a voice for people to normalize non-drinking and to help them maximize their world and their life by traveling sober.
I think that's important because it's kind of hard because our society is kind of built on, drinking is like a lubricant to like relieve being uncomfortable or nervous, and then it become its own problem. I went to college and you got the frats, and the behavior that people learned in those frats or sororities can continue into your adult life.
True enough.
So yeah, it's hard to kind of buck like I was a sociology major, and people have like social mores or like the things that society the norms, and so like if you have a lot of people around you, they're still going to bars, they're still drinking, it makes it harder because it's like that peer pressure, which I guess you must have kind of navigated that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You were a sociology major. That is a rad major. I mean, you really get a lot of experience just looking around you and putting that major in action, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
cool thing. I was a double major. I took political science too, so it's a combination of looking at multiple behaviors.
Well, you have quite a show going on right now, huh?
Yeah, it was. It's almost I'm a musician as well, so I like to hit the left right brain, which is
Mhm.
talking to creative people. And I think anybody who has a podcast or writes a book is a creative person, and so I like to have this space so people can talk about what they've learned. And I think what people do, like you're doing, is that you pay it forward. Like you take your experience and you write a book. Like you're the author of the Sober Travel Handbook, Navigating the World Alcohol Free. And I think that's really important for people to have a vision, put it into words, get it out into the world.
Thanks. I really, really hope it's useful to people. It's a combination of my own experience, but then I also interviewed probably about 50 other non-drinkers. So I learned a lot and got a lot of different angles from people that I would have thought of myself.
I think it's really important. So maybe we go back to the beginning. So you're a travel writer,
Yes.
and you want to help people in recovery see the world without picking up a drink. But like, how did you get to that point of where you are now?
Well, I'm not young, so it's a long story, but I'll go back a little. I'll go back a little bit. So I grew up, and I was attracted to alcohol from a very young age. It was like a natural inclination. I drank rubbing alcohol when I was a kid fan and when I was a little kid, just because I
Mm.
was so attracted to the scent. So I think there was something innate in me that just liked the alcohol. Because obviously, it's not normal to drink rubbing alcohol. It's not good for you. Don't do it at home. So uh, I drank when I was young for a lot of the reasons young people do, social awkwardness and the drive for oblivion at times, wanting to get away from it all. And then also the social reason. So, people drink for both escape and for celebration. So I did some of both. I was fortunate, though, that it hit me hard young. So I quit really early, and I got to have like a whole normal adult life without being an addict or, a practicing addict. You could say I'm still an addict, just a dormant addict. But I quit when I was only 20. I wasn't even of legal age. And so I've always been a creative person, like you were talking about. That's always been really important to me. So I've got to explore lots of things, including some music. I played bass for quite a few years. Hope to pick that up again. I've been really busy and haven't played it lately, but that's a plan to get back to bass in my future. I've done a lot of painting, a lot of writing, both fiction and nonfiction. So I've been interested in all these creative things. And because I haven't been a drunk, I've been able to do them all, which has been awesome. And then I've always loved to travel too, and been interested in learning about other cultures. And the last 15 years or so, I've been a travel writer, and I've had the opportunity to visit a lot of places and write about it and interview interesting people, and doing it all sober.
I think it's really important because sometimes the creative people, like, go back to the 60s, and people felt like they had to be under the influence of something to be creative. And, they had like the whole idea with the Beatles and LSD and, a lot of the hippie movement, and a lot of the artists seemed to like, oh, we're inspired by these substances. We're inspired by being like a Jack Kerouac on the road. You got to experience things.
Oh yeah, even go back to the 20s, and a lot of the main American writers anyway were big, like Hemingway and Fitzgerald and stuff. They were all drinking and killing their livers, and then sometimes, like Hemingway, killing themselves because it's a major depressant, and a lot of people do commit suicide if they're addicts. So it's kind of a weird thing. Well, okay, so like I was in Asheville, North Carolina a couple of years ago, and I was real interested in Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald, the 1920s kind of jazz age icons. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to trace their steps in Asheville, because that's where Zelda died in a tragic asylum fire because she had a lot of mental illness. And I went to this one hotel that's quite grand, and it's where F. Scott Fitzgerald stayed for a while when he was visiting Zelda when she was locked up. And so he drank there all the time, right? So he was a total alcoholic, and all these drinking problems. Well, they still celebrate his birthday at this bar with like a jazz and gin social. It's like people don't always get it. It's like this guy died.
There's a disconnect, because it's kind of glorified.
And people
it's glorified. They glorify kind of like, like even like if you get into the grunge era, right? The grunge era, like it was, all that depression was glorified to the point where we lost the Soundgarden, we lost Nirvana, we lost Stone Temple Pilots. We lost a lot of those band leaders because they were still caught up in that idea, like the F. Scott Fitzgerald idea.
The grunge people were like my era, so I was young. I was like about the same age as them when they were all dying, or at least when Kurt. I remember when I heard Kurt Cobain had died. I was like about the same age, a couple of years younger, I think.
Yeah, it's just like it's that critical thing, because a lot of times artists, like, we kind of are able to dive into our vulnerability. And when we dive into that vulnerability, sometimes like we create our best work. So our best work is created when you're not maybe feeling the best. And then the industry kind of like wants you to replicate that. So then you kind of get stuck in a loop where like you have to be in that bad place to be successful. Right. And so that's a hard thing to deal with. I know, like, there was a story that James Taylor, right, wrote, I've seen Fire, Sea, Rain. That was his biggest hit when he was like in the middle of a lot of addiction, a lot of problems. And when he finally got out of it and he was happy in his life, he did an album when he was happy, like a double album. Nobody bought it.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of problem
brand.
with art, is like sometimes you get associated with that. So how do you deal with that?
Oh, totally. I remember when I grew up in San Diego, and there was this performer there called Country Dick Montana. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he was like locally famous, and you'd see him play at bars and stuff. And his whole shtick was being really, really, really drunk, like drinking whiskey out of the bottle while he performed and blacking out. And I remember even when I was pretty newly sober, seeing that and thinking, oh my God, how is this guy going to sustain that? Because he was probably already in his 40s then. And, you think, guys, that's his brand. is being,
Yeah.
that drunk, and his liver's going to give out.
Yeah, it's a hard thing because, like, then, like, if you're gonna talk about kind of segging that to travel, like everywhere you go, like if you go like on a cruise boat, you go to like these scenes, festivals, all the activities have a lot of alcohol. Like all the places seem to be so alcohol focused. So when you started to look at like vacation opportunities like that you can do that aren't surrounded by alcohol, did you actually start to navigate and map that out?
Yeah, so I gravitate towards the things where people aren't drinking all the time. So some of those things are to do with like nature. Nature trips are really good.
Hmm.
Wellness kind of focused things like where people are into doing yoga. The nature is good. Like I do more and more water activities too. And some things just do not mix with alcohol. Like you cannot swim and drink. You cannot dive and cannot go scuba diving and drink at the same time. Like
Recycling.
maybe you're gonna drink before or after, but even then you're probably not gonna drink a whole lot and like get up at like 7 in the morning and go open water swimming. So I
Yeah, yeah.
gravitate towards things like
With
that.
things like aerobic, like if I'm a mountain biker, like you can't go
Oh,
to Vermont and do downhill and do a vacation of downhill if that night you get wasted or you drink. Like you need the recovery, you have to be hydrated. You can't knock your body down. You have to actually. So if you're a cyclist, if you're into mountain biking, if you're into
mhm.
snowboarding, if you're into, snowshoeing, if you're into, I live in New Hampshire. Um, so like Vermont, New Hampshire, and all Maine are all these mountains and all these activities around mountains. Um, so it's kind of like inherent, like you can't really do that if you want to enjoy yourself.
Right. And people do still get, you still hear about people that suffer from addiction that are athletic, but I don't think there's as many because there's more of a concern for taking care of our bodies. Because if
Yeah,
we don't take care of ourselves, we're not able to do these activities.
yeah, you just can't redo it. You don't have the aerobic capacity. You don't have like the stamina.
Yeah, and
Um,
alcohol is heavy. Who wants to carry all that booze like up a mountain if they're hiking or backpacking or something?
yeah,
It's not
but there's
practical.
no, yeah, you get a granola, you get power bars, you get tons of water. You're wearing like a camelback, like
That's right.
you're just concerned about hydration and have enough protein and have enough carbs, and so you become like your focus becomes that, and the fun becomes being in nature, like you said. Like if you're like I live in New Hampshire, I walk the Merrimack River Trail,
Oh,
and
that sounds so nice. I'm on the other coast in Oregon.
yeah, and it's just cool to be able to just like I do a lot of IT work. And sometimes it's good to just go off and go walk in the trail for a couple hours to kind of get out of it, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I spend a lot of screen time too. So I like to do things like walk in the park, or when it's warmer, I swim in the river in the mornings because I'm close to a river, or, on the weekends, hike or go to hot springs or kayak or paddleboard, all those things.
So, like, is this, I guess, navigating your time and scheduling yourself so you're not focused on alcohol? Like, if you, like you said, if you start to look at, like, there's lots of other things you could do. Like there's things that you could do that aren't surrounding that. So it's just a matter of like making that not the priority.
Yeah, and if you're going somewhere where like maybe you're going to another city or something where you have a wide open schedule, I would urge people to plan a little bit. Think of a few things you want to do, maybe buy an advance ticket to a museum. Don't just go, I mean, especially if you're kind of newly sober and you feel vulnerable, give yourself a little bit of structure. And if you're someone who goes to any kind of recovery groups, check those out when you're visiting too, because that'll anchor you into remembering that you quit for a reason.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, there's an example, like I think it was in some of your questions, like it's what somebody wants to go to a winery and wine tasting, and that's the focus of the trip. Is like knowing where you are at. Can you do that? Or can you say, well, that wouldn't work for me?
Yeah, and personally, I would always rather do something else rather than go with a group of people and be the only one who's not drinking wine. Although I did recently go to a dry January event at a winery in Oregon, and it was pretty interesting. They started to make some non-alcohol or de-alcoholized wines. Um,
Mm,
it was a weird experience being in a winery drinking the
non-alcoholic
de-alcoholized
wine.
wine.
That's cool.
I
At least
tasted
they can,
the Yeah, if you feel really secure and you're not drinking, if you're sober, or if you're someone who doesn't drink for another reason, because there's lots of people who don't drink because they have a medication interaction,
Yeah.
or they have their religion, discourages it, or they're pregnant. So in that case, sure, go ahead on the wine tasting and try the de-alcoholized wine and enjoy the good food. I would just say if you're someone who feels like the temptation might be too
It's too
much,
much. Yeah.
do something else. You don't have to go and do these things. You can say no, and you don't have to give people a big explanation either.
Yeah, because that's like the whole idea. Like, sometimes, like once you get to a place, like law of attraction, and where you are is like. So if you were like if you were younger, like if you're in college and you were in that frat, and then suddenly by the time you're like 30, you say, "Well, I'm not doing that anymore," and then your boys call you up and want to go on a situation, and then they're all still focused like where they were when they were 18.
Hmm.
You have to decide like, well, that's not really going to work for me. Like,
Yeah,
maybe I can't really be with these guys because they don't understand where I'm at, right? If
yeah.
people
It
don't
really
respect where
depends.
you're at.
It really depends. I interviewed there's a really great guy named Chris Marshall who owns Sam's Bar in Austin, Texas, and that's the first non-alcoholic bar in the country that's still running, been going since 2017. And he told me about going to a bachelor party with his old friends in New Orleans. And he had a lot of really good strategies. They were all drinking, so he felt secure in his sobriety, but he did have an exit strategy. He knew how he was going to get home. It was only like an hour flight. If he couldn't take it, he would leave. He brought lots of his own favorite non-alcoholic alternatives. And then he just hung out with his friends, but they were all hungover, and he'd get up in the morning and really enjoy the city of New Orleans and like go walk along the Mississippi River and appreciate the architecture. So sometimes if you're feeling secure and you have a plan, you could still go and see your friends. And he said his friends all respected that he was sober. So that's an important thing too. Like if your friends don't respect that you've made
Yeah.
this choice, you don't want to go hang out with them too much, especially not when they're all drinking. See if you can catch them early for a coffee date, but don't go hang out with them at night when they're drinking.
Yeah, if they can't back off on the pressure campaign, like
Yeah.
if they can't respect that you're gonna be drinking non-alcoholic or you're just gonna be eating or talking and you're not focused on the other things, then that's just not it's not gonna work. So it's kind of like case by case scenario, and like what sounds like you gotta know where you are in your sobriety, and then you have to kind of know if your friends are gonna respect that or not.
Yeah, and you have to remember too, and sometimes people don't realize this if they first quit and they feel kind of sensitive and they feel like they're the odd person out. But if somebody is pressuring you hard to drink and you say no, it's not that there's anything wrong with you. They are pressuring you usually because they're reconsidering their own drinking. They're thinking maybe there's something wrong with them.
Yeah, they don't want to
They
feel
want
that.
you to drink along to normalize their drinking. That's
Give 'em a
usually
pass. They're trying to get a pass. It's like you're actually making them think, you know, and
right.
sometimes people don't wanna have to think that deeply.
Totally.
So, like, it's a hard place, to be. It's like, if you're the outlier, like, if you're in you're like the pioneer, you're
Yeah.
moving into this area, and the thing is, like, anytime somebody is in the outlier, it's like it tends to be the situation a lot of creative people find themselves in. It's like we're doing something that's not like not inside the bell curve. We're doing something that's like on the outer edge, right? So when you do that thing, sometimes it's like people look at you, it's like, well, what? They act like you're the strange one,
Hmm.
and then you
But you
have
got
to
to
deal
stay
with all that.
strong.
Yeah, that peer pressure to like not get pushed by that, to not give into that.
But what's interesting is later on, you're going to be their resource when some of them decide maybe they have a problem, maybe they want to cut back, they want tips. And this has happened to me several times in different jobs or even graduate school when people found out I didn't drink and that I was in recovery. I'd get somebody come up to me every once in a while in private and, be like, hey, can we talk? And then they tell me about their problem. Or maybe they had a sister who had a problem or a friend and they wanted some resources. So remember, you can be helpful. So stay strong.
It's also about like, a lot of people, sales conventions. My dad was a sales guy back in the
Mm-hmm.
70s, and my mom used to get really ticked off because he would get caught up in the drinking that happened at these sales things and kind of lose the focus, like the focus at that convention or that that event where you're trying to network was supposed to
Mhm.
be about getting the networking, but it always kind of degraded into the drinking. And
That
then
becomes a focus for a lot of people at those conventions.
yeah, and so that they tell everybody it's about the networking, but it ends up being about the drinking.
Mhm.
Is and so how do you what's the like, when you actually have to deal with the truth of what it really
Mhm.
is that the hard thing?
Yeah, I still struggle with that even though I've been sober for ages because sometimes it feels really uncomfortable when everyone's drinking a whole lot and the networking is going on. So first, I would give myself a little grace if I feel like it's just going to overwhelm me. And it's not even like I think I'm going to drink. It's more like I feel like I'm just going to be overwhelmed by awkwardness of everyone else drinking and me not. So sometimes I'll just tell myself, I'll go, I'll give it a try. If it sucks, I'm going to leave early. And there have been times when I've left early or skipped something altogether. But there have been other times I've gone and I've been totally fine. Like I went to a work related kind of happy hour thing the other day, last weekend, and I got a non-alcohol drink, which was delicious. It was like one of the regular cocktails without the alcohol, and I just drank that, and I was interacting with my peers, and I forgot all about it. Like I didn't even really think about I'm in this bar for 2 or 3 hours. I was not in a hurry to leave at all, and I felt totally fine. So
Yeah.
I'd say give yourself a chance and see it. Just see how you're feeling. If you're feeling in danger, then leave. But if you're feeling okay, maybe you'll have a good time.
Plus, it would make you I would think because, like, you're not actually losing sight of, like, your goal. Because if you're drinking that now non-alcoholic drink, you're probably gonna come out with more leads
Yeah,
and more
you probably
connections
will. You probably
and more
will.
yeah, because you actually gonna be present.
Yeah, and you can listen to other people and respond appropriately. Yeah.
Yeah, and then everybody will feel like, well, maybe they don't know you're drinking non-alcoholic drink. They think you're part of it, so they're not being, keyed into you're not drinking. Is that the problem? Like something like that, if they get keyed in that you're not drinking, why aren't you drinking?
Only certain people, and like I said, those are usually the ones that have a problem themselves or are wondering if they do. And I used to think more that people were thinking about that, but now, especially writing this book where I talked to so many non-drinkers, people who didn't drink for different reasons, it was kind of funny because some of them I knew and I hadn't even noticed they were non-drinkers because they just didn't make a big deal out of it. And
Mhm.
a lot of people just really don't care what you're drinking. Sometimes they'll just keep asking you if you want to drink because they want to make sure you're comfortable and you have something to drink. And if you just get something that's not alcohol, that's totally fine. Um, and there's more and more good non-alcoholic drinks today. I
Yeah,
really appreciate that more bars and events are thinking about getting something delicious because it does tick me off when I go and like there's nothing but like like just like Coke or Diet Coke. It's nice
yeah,
when there's
just
some
soda.
other options. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
soda water too. I drink a lot of it, but it's nice when they're like, what really makes us feel like we belong is if we go somewhere and they're like, oh, and this is our tonight's signature mocktail. I'm like, really? You thought of us? I mean, that's really
that's
nice.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
once
nice
in a while that happens.
when you
Yeah.
feel inclusive, like when you feel like they've not forgotten that
Yeah.
they're
Maybe make
they're
them make the
diabetics.
non-alcohol. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
diabetics too.
they're like, we want to be able to go, but like, I'm a type 2, I can't have it at all. My
Oh
numbers go
yeah.
through the roof. So it's
See,
like,
yeah.
it's not a choice. It's like if you're diabetic and you do that, you won't be around.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
like you have to. And the older generations, they had a hard time with that. Like my
Mm-hmm.
great grandpa and grandpas, they didn't know how to handle, and there wasn't good tools to know where you're at. And so now, that can be solved, but, like, that was a big pressure problem, and for a lot of people, they didn't pay attention what their doctors told them, and they just did what they wanted, and then, that's a sad story, but I just wonder, like, that going on trips and travel, it can lead to, like, a relapse because of the pressures and because of the places that maybe don't think about the mocktails, that don't think about it being inclusive to people who wanna, practice, like, their sobriety.
Well, I think the relapse thing with travel, it has to do with with stress, because we sort of think, if especially if it's a vacation, we expect it's going to be really fun, and it might be really fun, but travel is also very stressful, and stuff
Mm.
often goes wrong. There's delays, there's scary trips on the airplane where it starts bumping up and down.
Oh
There's
yeah.
maybe we don't get along with the people we're traveling with. We get in a fight. Maybe we have some romantic notions, like we're going to go to some resort and it's going to be like Instagram, but instead nobody talks to us. We feel really awkward. I mean, all kinds of stuff happens, right? And or it could also be good stuff, like you're having fun. So two of the reasons people relapse are from this sort of celebratory urge where they're real excited and they want to join in the party. And then the other is the opposite, when they feel really uncomfortable and bad and they want to, like sort of erase that bad feeling with a drink. So either of those can happen when you're traveling. And there's also the idea that we go somewhere different. And especially if no one knows us, hey, we could be anybody. Maybe we don't have a drinking problem. We're a new person in a new place. So it's easy to lose sight of that too. And then
Yeah.
there's triggers. Like a lot of people have airport triggers, like airport
Mm.
bars and airplanes that they've always drank on them. And it feels very strange not to.
Yeah, I think you get stuck in a habit. Like
Mhm.
if you're in like a loop or bad behavior, repetitive behavior, it's hard to get out of, and then you're back on that train, and you gotta really be mindful to not fall into that pattern.
Mhm.
And you have to have you have to have mindfulness. You have to find like strategies and practices so that when you get stressed out, you meditate or you breathing exercise or you have some kind of coping mechanism where you start to kind of remap your behavior, remap like the what you've done. And that takes some work, because if you don't do the work, like when that happens, might not, you might just fall into a pattern.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, there's meditation and yoga are great. Not everybody's going to have the patience to develop them. And until you do, or if you don't, you can do something else. Call a friend. Sometimes you just have to change, just do something different. Like instead of getting the drink, I mean, maybe you have some game you play on your phone. It's not like a high level coping thing like, oh, I'm so enlightened, I meditate, but it takes your mind off the drink. So what? You just want to do something that's going to shift your mind off the drink from now. And then also check in. Maybe you're thirsty, drink some water. Maybe buy yourself a delicious treat, some food item instead. Just shift it and put off, you want to elongate that time between the craving or the urge and giving into it, and think about what else can I do instead. And calling somebody is really, really helpful. It might be someone who's like, if you're in a recovery group, or it could just be like any friend, any family member who supports your decision not to drink, and just check in with them. And lots of times just telling somebody, oh, I'm getting the urge to drink, can lift it from you. It's kind of magic.
That's interesting because we spend so much time like doom scrolling
Mm.
and being on the net. We've kind of forgot the phone is for actually talking to people.
It will, especially when you're in a bind. There's nothing like hearing another voice. You could text someone too, but really calling somebody when you're feeling in a bind it makes a difference. The voice or a face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, because talking is like, I think in this world with all the tech, where there's a lot of people who've got us into, oh, well, use this app and be on some, scroll and watching, looking at the TikTok, looking at the Instagram,
Yeah.
playing the video game. These are all things that keep you like not connected to other people directly, right?
Mhm.
So if like even like you said, if you're chatting with somebody, at least you're doing that. You're talking to somebody, you're FaceTiming somebody, then you've got that human connection even through the device, or you're physically like talking to somebody instead of like using a crutch. You actually
True.
decide to
But
actually use your voice.
I won't knock the way anybody copes, because like I met somebody recently who's been sober 10 years, and she said it was just from like, I don't know if has TikTok been around 10 years? I'm not sure. It's but some kind of
Yeah, so
online
yeah,
influencers. She just started following them and she got sober by these online influencers. I think since she's met people that she's friends with in person, to me that was really weird. Like I don't think that would have worked for me, but if something works for someone, that is awesome. But for me, like in my earliest days, I was meeting other people in person, and I even had a couple of times where I was feeling really, really like I wanted a drink. And I made that public to these people I didn't really even know. And a couple times I had a woman. You want to do it with your saying, if you're a woman, you don't want to just go off with some strange guy you don't know, but with a woman who was just like, okay, I'm going to take you under my wing for today, and you're just going to come with me. And I went along and I did errands and stuff with people until I got over the urge. I mean, it was very hands-on, face-to-face. And that's what I needed at that time. And of course, it's embarrassing to tell somebody like, oh, can I just go and sit with you while you do your laundry? Because I think I'm going to drink. But you know what? It's worth it. It paid off. And I
Yeah, you
didn't
had a
relapse.
different, like you wanted the actual experience of like actually experiencing something, not like somebody might be more comfortable, with on an app and getting engaged in that app or the game or like in the ether of the tech world.
Well,
Other
Phantom,
people,
I'm so old. This was before apps. Okay.
yeah. But I mean, some people don't like it. I mean, there's some people like I just like to read books, or they like
Yeah.
to listen to audiobooks, or they want to listen to music. They'll actually get caught up in their playlist or an album, or
Yeah.
listening to like just ambient music to kind of
Whatever
calm
works.
themselves down. Whatever calms you down, you figure out
Whatever
what
works.
it is.
Mm-hmm. To just get you past that urge. Mm-hmm.
So your book is a handbook. So how is your book kind of structured?
Oh, well, let's see. Here it is. It's a little book. It's about 192 pages, I think. It's so the primary audience is it's for people in recovery. That's the number one. Number two audience is just anybody who doesn't drink for any reason. So some of the information is specific to things like relapse and avoiding temptation. And then other parts are just for anybody who doesn't drink, like tips for how to get through business networking without drinking, or going to family functions where everyone's drinking, or the bachelor parties. And then I also have a bunch of trip ideas of places you can go and things you can do that just aren't going to center on drinking. So it's possible somebody might be drinking, but that won't be the whole point of it. So yeah, those are some of the things. It also has how to say I don't drink alcohol in a bunch of different languages. And one of my favorite parts, this is kind of dorky, I guess, but I love historic places that have to do with the fight against alcoholism. So I have some places you can go to visit, like Temperance Crusaders houses, or the places where the AA founders grew up, or things like that. So I really enjoy history too, and I like to think about how like alcohol is something that people have been fighting with for a really long time. It's not just because people sometimes think like, oh, should I admit I have a problem? Oh, what if I say I'm an alcoholic? It's the end of the world. I say, so what? Alcohol is a poison. Lots of people manage to drink a little bit of it. It doesn't do them that much harm, but it's not good for anybody, and it never has been. And people have been struggling with it for centuries and centuries. So if you're stuck in that place where you're like, oh, I'm so ashamed I have a problem, I mean, really get over it. Lots of people have problems. It's not a big deal. People have all sorts of problems. And I feel fortunate in lots of ways that I have a problem with alcohol versus a lot of other problems, because there's a simple solution. I don't drink,
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of problems that are much harder to tackle than that.
yeah.
So,
There's other problems. It's like that take a lot more effort. Maybe the effort actually could be significant. It's depending on like your psychology or like where you are. Because if you've gotten like yourself into that bad loop, that's where like how do you remap, how do you retrain yourself?
yeah, sometimes you're gonna need help. People who have a really bad addiction might need medical detox. Like it can be life threatening. So there's that
Mm,
level, and then there's a level where maybe you need inpatient treatment because you can't get over the mental part of it on your own, or maybe you need to join a recovery group and sort of do outpatient stuff. There's a lot of different levels of it, and so I'm not trying to minimize that it's hard, but
mhm.
it's something that we can do something about, maybe easier than something like say like we get a terrible kind of cancer or something. that's
Oh
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah,
we don't have as much of our own control to heal that as we do from the drinking. That's what I meant. I didn't mean to
yeah.
minimize people struggling.
No, I think it's important. I just wanted to clarify, but uh, one of the things I always ask every author is, because were you already writing about travel, right? You were already a published author before you wrote this book.
Yeah, so I write a lot for magazines and websites, and then I had several books out before. One of my one of my books is called Easy Portland Outdoors, and it's about outdoor activities to do around Portland. I know not a very creative title. All my titles are like kind of exactly what they are. I have another project I worked on during the pandemic with my dear friend Heidi Davis. We're both cemetery aficionados, and we wrote a book called Historic Cemeteries of Portland, Oregon. And most of the stuff I write in travel, I read a lot of outdoors adventure, eco kind of stuff, vegan and sober travel, and then sometimes kind of offbeat stuff like my love of cemeteries and ghosts and things like that.
I always ask authors like what gave you your permission structure to actually go into the field and focus on, because some people talk about like I want to write that book and then they never do it. Other folks like they find their wings on it and they
Mhm.
get into it. Like what allowed you to even enter that space?
I would say it all goes back to my wonderful, wonderful mommy, who I lost last year at a very old age. We had her a long time. But when I was a young child, she was always involved in organizations like church and PTA and stuff. And she would bring me along to all these meetings and we would write books together. And so before I could write, she would write the words and I'd draw the pictures. And then I could write the words too. And we'd collaborate on all this stuff. And she'd been a first grade teacher before she had kids. So she was always teaching kids to read. And then one of my older sisters wanted to be a school teacher from the time she was little. So we would play school. So I had all this education around language and writing and stuff and was very encouraged from the time I was extremely small. So I would say I have an aptitude for writing, but I also had a lot of encouragement and support from a young age. And I always really love books. So I constantly be going to the public library as a child, and I'd get,
Mhm.
like just stacked this high. And
Yeah, so you're
oh, which
passionate.
one am I going to open first?
Yeah, that's interesting because like today we're running into a situation where there's like a lot of people they actually don't go to the library. They don't pick up physical books. I mean, there's a lot of people that listen to books like audiobooks. Um, but it's like because of our tech has become so like tablet phone
Mm,
focused that like people are losing that. I'm a child of the 70s. I used to go to the library. I
mhm,
still like books. I still read a lot of. I mean, I'm a comic book fan. I read a lot of graphic novels. I read a lot of pulp science fiction. I'm really into that, like Harlan Ellison and like I just like that genre. So I'll actually go look for those books and read them.
mhm.
I'm wondering, like today, like, do you find that you have to? A lot of your people actually get your physical book, or they get your audio book, or you're still able to engage people with physical books?
Oh, so far I don't have an audio book for this one. I should probably make one. Personally, I listen to audiobooks and I read physical books and I read stuff online. Although I don't really read books on my phone. I mostly either listen to audiobook or read a physical book. I live in a neighborhood where we have a lot of those little free libraries that people put in front of their houses. So
Mm,
mostly I mostly go to those these days. I still order stuff from the official library sometimes, but mostly I just go and I, pick up a book from the free library and I put one back and I read
mhm.
all sorts of stuff, just like whatever looks like the best one in a free library at a time. So I read mysteries and thrillers. I also read a lot of young people's books because I think those have some really creative
Good
plot.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, but you're right. I should probably make an audio book of this one too. Haven't done it yet.
Yeah, my wife's an author, and she's, like, working on doing an audiobook because of engagement. Like, you actually could see that there's a lot of engagement on audiobooks with the way that people consume the material today. It's more likely, like, if they're stuck in an Uber, they're on a plane, they're in their bed at night, they get into audiobooks. It's a cool way for authors to still engage people that maybe, they thought they lost, but they actually still have 'em if they just engage them that way.
Right. I listen to them all the time if I'm cooking or house cleaning, things like that.
Yeah, it's just for the multitaskers. So
Mhm.
they can have it, just to be there. I think it's just interesting, like the how-to type of book. Like your book's kind of like a how-to or like a step, like instruction type book, right? Is that the structure?
Well, it has different little segments. So each one is like a chapter, like traveling with drinkers. It'll talk about, like traveling with your drinking friends,
Oh, it's
or
like a narrative, so it has
is
to.
networking. Yeah, it has a lot of has a lot of white space too, and a lot of text boxes. So it's the kind of thing you can pick up and read a couple pages here and there. Wherever it has these sober trip ideas, a couple paragraphs about a fun trip you could take that wouldn't focus on alcohol. So yeah, it's a narrative. I mean, there's parts that have some bullet points. Like there's some bullet points about
There's
some of the
narrative
things
stuff.
that you might be feeling if you go to a funeral. There's a few little comics in here too. This is my character, a sober cat, which is a Sphinx cat who doesn't have any fur. So it's kind of like an alcoholic without their alcohol. They really feel everything. That's
Oh,
my
you illustrated that?
Yeah,
Oh,
with
that's
sober
cool.
cat.
You wear a lot of hats. So you do some music, you do some illustration.
Yeah. I have an interesting life, and I get to do outdoorsy stuff too. Like I like to go kayaking and swimming. But that's the beauty of being sober. If I hadn't stopped drinking, and I think a lot of people who, even if you just kind of maintenance drink every night, you come home and drink. There's so many interesting things you can do in the world that you might not have. You might not even get around to trying. Like I don't think I would have got around to trying lots of stuff if I was still spending a lot of time drinking. Well, actually, I would have been dead a long time ago because I would have wandered off into traffic and got hit or something like that.
Yeah, because I think it's like finding things to be passionate about in life, other than the things that like can hurt us. Like
Mm,
some people, you might get into the bad habits, and they're not very conducive to like elevating your life or being able to have a more positive mindset. Like so, then you're able to say, hey, well, I can actually do this. I can draw, I can write, I can paint, I can go and take a walk on the seashore. You open up your life to like what you can do instead of what you can't do, right?
totally. I just got certified to scuba dive 2 years ago. I did not see that one coming. I never thought I had any interest, and now I get down there and I, look at the fish and the stingrays and stuff like that, and the
That sounds
coral.
really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's just like you open up you get less fearful about trying new things once you become more confident. Not that like in life you're always not. I think a lot of people they get stuck in a perfection trap.
Oh
People
yeah.
they want to be perfect, and if they don't hit the mark, if they don't get from 0 to 100, then they beat themselves up, and then they might go into a bad habit because they didn't hit it. But if you think in terms of little wins, like what did I do today that was successful instead of focusing on the things that weren't successful? Not that you can't learn from that, but if you just beat yourself up all the time, then I
Yeah,
think
you
you
don't
can
have to be
be.
good at everything to enjoy it. I swim with a swimming group. I'm one of the slower swimmers. I go for little runs. I run like a geezer. I paint. I like my paintings, but maybe they're not as competent as some of my peers. It doesn't matter. You just do these things that you like and you'll feel enjoyment. You don't have to just compare yourself and be like, oh, I can't do something because I'm not as good as that person. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like every musician. Like if you like, I know a lot of musicians like because they can't play like Jimmy Page or they
Mm.
can't play like Coltrane, then they say, "Well, I can't do it." Where if you think about somebody like it's a punk rocker, right, or a grunge rocker, it's like they don't. It's like it doesn't matter. It's if you have the heart, then you do it because you have heart and passion. It doesn't matter. You don't have a perfect pitch voice. Yeah, you're not Nat King Cole, right? But you have something to say, and so that's what allows that person to do it. Where the other person would say, "Well, I'm not Nat King Cole, so I can't sing."
Hmm.
It's that kind of mindset.
Yeah, and you just can't be too proud. Like when I played bass, I would play with people who had much better ears than I, had a better ear for the music than I did, and I would get lost, and I'd have to be like, "Wait, what's that chord? What's that?" I just had to ask, instead of,
Yeah,
because then if I asked them, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, okay," and I could play it, but I wasn't as good, but I still had a good time, and I still got to be part of something. You just can't be so proud that you think you have to be the best at everything, or you just have a miserable time.
yeah, because then you won't try anything unless you're going to win, unless you're always good. And so we got a mindset like out there in the net, like unless you got like 1,000 likes, your post is no good. Where like you could have a post and then somebody like doesn't have a lot of likes, but somebody finds it, and then you get an opportunity, and it never registered as some massive metric. You didn't get 1 million views, you didn't get 1,000 likes, but you got an opportunity. So if you only post because you think you're going to get 1 million views, you're missing out the fact that like if you put something out in the world, you have no idea who's going to see it, who's going to react to it, who you might connect with. And so that's why I think it's important to just like kind of throw it at the wall. You don't know what's going to happen.
I throw a lot of things at the wall, Phantom, and some stuff nothing happens, and other stuff interesting stuff happens.
Yeah, you just don't put the limitations. Like if we put a lot of glass ceilings on ourselves, we might say, "Oh, this person is stopping me," but a lot of times you're stopping yourself. It's not this
Yep.
other person stopping you. You're the one stopping you.
Yep. And you just have sometimes you just go and you see how where something leads. Like so the reason I'm here talking to you, one of the reasons is because I heard about this special event going on in Orlando last month called Amplify Sober Voices. And it was going to be all these sober writers and influencers and stuff getting together. And I thought, wow, that sounds really neat. I should go to that. So, I took my chances. I paid the money and I went. And I didn't even know that the Amplify was part of a bigger event called PodFest, which was like, I guess, the world's biggest podcasting fest, which I knew nothing about. But because I'd paid for Amplify, I got to go to PodFest too. So then I met all these podcasters and like went to some seminars on how to be a better guest and found out about Podmatch. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And now I get to be a podcast guest and meet people like you. And like I said, I've been on a couple of podcasts where the podcaster is in Nigeria. I'm going to be on someone's that's in India. I mean, wow, open up the world just because I decided to take a chance and go to Orlando and check out this Amplify thing, and that's how life is, I think, is like you take a chance on one thing and you don't know
like
what's going to open up.
Yeah, all these doors open up if you walk through one door, then it opens up many doors, you know? And it's kind of this idea, like if you just if you're so fearful, like I run into artists, like, they got all their paintings in their loft and they're so fearful of putting in the gallery and they're not very good judge of their own work. And they say, well, it's not ready. And like, looks ready to me. So until you have to you got to take that shot and say, hey, you know what? Like a lot of times you're your own worst self-critic. Like a lot of times, like nothing will happen if you just you have to get over yourself and say, you know what? There might be somebody that says something I don't want to hear, but maybe you need to hear that, And so, and maybe you didn't, but like you still shouldn't be fearful of like how the world's gonna, take it. You kind of got to build up some skin. To deal with
and maybe one person will say something that is negative and 50 people will say something positive, in which case I'd say try to pay more attention to the 50 people that are saying something positive and don't let the one negative person hold you back.
Yeah, that's the rule of thumb, because like if somebody takes a lot of energy to say they hate it, but they don't give you any constructive criticism, well, that's talking about themselves. They're kind of really revealing who they are more than who you are.
Yeah, it's probably a wretched, miserable person.
Yeah, the people who just say they hate it and don't elaborate, like, well, tell me like why you don't like it, like so I can fix it. Like, when you're in the music, like if you're dealing with an engineer or a producer, they'll explain to you like, oh, use this voicing, change the key, do this, change the tempo, do something. It's very constructive. But if somebody just tells you, well, I hate it, it's terrible. It's like, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything.
Right. It could just not be their taste. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. It's like you can tell everybody you don't like it, but that's like your judgment. It's not anything that helps me other than that's okay. Well, that's not your cup of tea, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't do it.
That's right.
So I think
what are we going to do in life if we don't do the things we like? We're just going to, I like to watch TV too. I watch lots of crime shows, but are we just going to sit around? We might as well do our art, whether or not we think it's the best in the world, because otherwise, how are we spending all our time? We're going to spend our time doing something.
Yeah. Are you going to be a consumer of art or actually be somebody that actually creates art?
No. Yeah. Ideally, you're both. You're supporting the other artists and you're making your own art.
Yeah, because sometimes we're a little lopsided one way or the other. Yeah, and it's cool when we find that balance in ourselves of like where we want to be, rather than being kind of led around by the nose. Like, so I think it's cool when you actually have a vision. And like every artist consumes other art because that's how they kind of get an idea. And I think the artist's mindset or soul is that we are very good observers of not only the world but ourselves, and we can actually put that into a piece of work, and it synthesizes the inner and the outer. And so that's what becomes unique. It's not that you're living in isolation and you never looked at anything else. You're influenced by everything you see and hear.
Yeah, and hopefully we're supporting. Hopefully, as artists, we make friends that are also artists, whether they're visual artists or musicians, and we go to their shows and we support them, and they support us. So it's a nice symbiotic thing, and we appreciate that everyone's art is a little different.
Yeah, it's like if everybody just wants the same thing, it's like we get the Beatles all day, which is not bad, but eventually you get burned out of listening to the Beatles. But I want to thank you for being here. I want to remind people that we have your QR code. If you scan that, you go to teresabergen.com. If people go to your website, where do they find there?
What would they find on my website?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I have a lot. So my website is Veg Travel and Fitness. So it's mostly stuff to do with that's outdoorsy, vegan, sober, wellness stuff like yoga or fitness. And then I also have a sort of funny page on there. I'm on this weird quest to paddle in every state and every U.S. state and Canadian province. So I have a funny page about me trying to kayak or paddleboard in all these different places, which is only about a third full because I still have many states to visit yet to go paddle in. And again, I'm not like an expert paddler or anything. This is just something I enjoy. And I just want to like drop a kayak in there for a couple hours and paddle around. It's not an epic athletic adventure. It's just a fun thing, getting out on the water, seeing some nature in different states, seeing what kind of birds and fish are out there.
Yeah, I think that's cool. That's like every mountain biker we want to hit every big mountain we can.
Oh, that's so cool. I am way too chicken to be a mountain biker like you, Phantom. That really, my collarbones just like shiver in fear.
Yeah, you don't want that.
About mountain biking.
That is a risk we take, and we end up taking that risk. I mean, yeah, I'm 58, but like, yeah, in my 20s, I
am too. We're the same age.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's like my wife says, like, don't do what you did when you're 28. Right? Don't be trying to hit 50 miles an hour down Killington. Right? Like, back off a little bit.
Do you do it? Do you still do it?
I do it, but it's like I kind of like hit the brakes more than when I was younger. Like, I was always trying to hit the max speed down the fire road.
Oh my God, you're so brave. I'm a total chicken when it comes to big hills. That's why I'd rather be in, one of the things I love about being in the water is you're probably not going to fall. You might get eaten by a shark, but you're not going to like fall off a mountain.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. People like the skiers look at us and it's like, how can you do that with no snow on the ground?
I'm scared of the skiing down the big hills. I'm just a chicken when it comes to big hills.
Yeah.
But I admire it. It looks like fun if you're a brave person like you.
Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. And we got a lot of mountains around. But I want to thank you for being here tonight. We've been live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. We'll be on all major podcast platforms where you can listen to or watch a podcast. By tomorrow, we're going to send you a landing page. You can share it with the audience.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be putting out some clips of this on Instagram so people can check it out and go back and share it with their friends and share it with everybody on whatever platform they want to watch it on the landing page. But I want to thank you again for being on the Family Electric Ghost podcast.
Thank you. It was lots of fun.
Thank you.